Hello, everyone. Welcome to Monday Night Lights. We're back, and it's good to be back. This time on a podcast, not a radio. But we're just doing our best we can to get the information to you because we know you love us.
Yeah, it was a long 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was definitely rough. So I was just sitting there on Monday nights, not doing anything. But hey, we decided to set this up. I think it's going to go pretty well. So
Yeah, we're back.
yeah. So I'm sitting. Well, I'm not sitting alongside Lewis. I'm like FaceTiming him to get the podcast going, but it's close enough. So we're gonna get you started off with some NBA and the playoffs. The Warriors are up 3-0 on the Houston Rockets, and the Cavs are up 3-0 on the Atlanta Hawks. I thought the Atlanta Hawks were gonna be able to pull that one out last night, but LeBron decided.
Yeah, that one was close.
Yeah, LeBron was killing it last night. So,
yeah, he's been in a whole nother gear this series at least.
Yeah, I mean, like, I understand, like, LeBron's the best player in the world and all, so, like, I try to not give him, like, all the credit. Like, if he gets, like, 30 and 10, like, I'm not like, oh, man, like, LeBron got 30 and 10, like, I'm expecting that, but that triple-double was, like, 30, 18, and 12 or something like that. It was,
Yeah,
that was nuts. He took it to another level last night.
I'm just surprised that the Rockets have yet to take a game. I thought maybe Harden would keep it close, but
yeah, I mean, I thought they maybe could have got one game, and I think they might still get a game, but like, I knew the Warriors were just they had no shot against the Warriors. Looking at the way Dwight's been playing in the postseason, it's just been real bad. Like, do you see when he got boxed out by Curry?
Oh yeah.
And then he fouls him because he was all upset. Like,
that was hysterical.
Yeah, like, there's something wrong with Dwight. Like, I don't know. He just can't. He just doesn't want to play. He just can't play. Like I don't like Kobe, but like now I kind of understand what he was talking about with Dwight, because Dwight's just a baby, like on the court and off the court.
Yeah, I was at a barbecue yesterday, and one of my friends who's about 5'5" boxed me out playing basketball. He's like, I'm Steph Curry. He started chucking nuts.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, Josh Smith and Corey Brewer coming off the bench, they haven't done anything. Cause like,
yeah, and they were a big factor against the Clippers.
Yeah, I think they were a factor because they were going up against, like, if you look who's coming off the bench for the Clippers, you had Austin Rivers and then like Spencer Hawes or something, or Big Baby, where, like, the Warriors, you got, coming off the bench, you got David Lee, who used to be a starter and an all-star. You got Andre Iguodala, who's been an all-star. Barbosa, who used to be an all-star. Like, it's nuts. Like, they can match up. Like, they're raising the bar with their bench.
Yeah.
Speaking of good benches, the Cavs, I mean, they've just totally owned the Hawks. I mean, they're not as good as the Warriors bench, but, I mean, they still have, I think, Shumpert coming off the bench. They have, like, their benches, like, you look at their bench, and, like, none of the guys really get in the game most of the time, like Sean Marion and, like, Mike Miller. They might get in the game, but they're still good players. James Jones has been playing a lot this series. So
yeah, J.R. Smith's been on fire though. Yeah, especially the first games.
Yeah, your former Knicks man, right?
yeah. He did you see his Instagram post with he posted something. It was like him and Shumpert in Knicks jerseys, and then in Cavs jerseys, and it was like one man's trash, man's treasure.
Oh man, he totally buried the Cavs.
It was like that hurts, especially with the way things have gone this last week with the Knicks.
Yeah, it's been rough. And then we'll get to that as the draft lottery
we'll get to that.
May 19th. But first I want to talk about just the Hawks' struggles. Like, and their best game last night was when they didn't have Korver, and that surprised me the most. I thought Korver being out, it would be even worse. But they kept it close, and they just it just doesn't seem like they have that. I don't know what to call it, but like that ability to close, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like because, I mean, even against Washington, you saw like they were able to win some close games, but a lot of the close games you were just like, not looking good for them. And then you had a Al Horford body slam last night.
Oh yeah, yeah.
like, like what did he expect to come out of that? Like you're doing it against Dellavedova, first off, which means like this little Australian guy is getting the best of you. Like he doesn't do anything. He'll like I mean he had a good game last night, but like really like if you're gonna body slam anyone, body slam LeBron because then you at least you have a chance to come back if you hurt him.
Or at least go for like Tristan Thompson. Pick on someone your own size.
Yeah, really. So I mean he'll probably be out for Game 4 most likely, suspend after that because that was just really dirty. So that just means they're gonna have to start like Muscala or something, and it's just gonna be overall bad for them.
Yeah, that's when you're facing the Cavs in a Game 4 possible sweep. You want all your troops there if you can.
Yeah, and right now you're gonna be losing Corver and Horford. So, I mean, the Hawks can't be mad. They expected to be in the lottery this year. They ended up being in the final or Eastern Conference Finals. So,
yeah.
And they just got outmatched and ran out of steam. So, I think if they got to keep Carroll. I think if they lose Carroll, they're gonna really struggle. But that's we'll talk about the off season some other time. Right now, we're going to talk about the lottery, which is on May 19th. And the winner of that was the Minnesota Timberwolves, first projected number 1 seed to win it since, I believe, 2005, I saw. And then the Lakers jumped up to number 2, Sixers at 3, your Knicks at 4, they fell. I know you're happy about that. We have 5, we got Orlando, 6 Sacramento, 7 Denver, 8 Detroit, 9 Charlotte, 10 Miami, 11 Indiana, 12 Utah, 13 Phoenix, 14 Oklahoma City, and 15 Atlanta. And then we'll run through the next 30. The Atlanta picks from Brooklyn. So, who do you like for the Knicks at number 4? I know you were always talking Okafor Towns, but then that hurts you there. So
those aren't happening.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, those aren't happening. Well, I'm figuring K. Towns to the Timberwolves because with them having Pekovic, and then I mean you have Rubio, Levine, and Wiggins. What's the one piece missing? And that's a power forward.
Yeah.
And then for number 2, I'm thinking the Lakers will probably take Okafor. I mean, it makes too much sense for them to, take Okafor, have Warren Randall, and let them lead the Lakers into the post Kobe era, I guess you could say. And then, based on what I've been reading, they're saying that Hinkie is high on D'Angelo Russell.
Mm-hmm.
So, figure he goes at 3. Then at 4, I think gets interesting because the Knicks have so many needs that I think it could be one of 2 people. I think it could be either Emmanuel Mudiay, who, I mean, is obviously the 4th out of the top 4 in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
But I would not be surprised if the Knicks reach for a Willie Cauley-Stein or some other big in this draft to, if they were planning to be where they were supposed to be and take either Towns or Okafor, and they just go a big to fill that void.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that. I definitely think 1-2 will be Towns, Okafor, Towns.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting how that plays out with the workouts and the interviews. If I were Timberwolves, I'd take Okafor because, they have Pekovic, but how much has he been on the court in the past 2 years? Like, not much.
That's a big contract.
Yeah, I know. So, I think you take the best player available. That's going to be who the Timberwolves think is the best based on the interviews and the workouts and all. Then the Lakers will take the other one. That's just a given. I'm really a big fan of the Sixers taking Russell. Hinkie likes
Yeah.
him. I love him. I think he's an awesome shooter. That's what we need. He could play point guard, shooting guard. You can even put him at small forward if you need to, if you were doing a smaller lineup. But we're not going to have many small lineups because we got Noel and Embiid. So, for the Knicks, that's where it gets real interesting. I actually think they're going to trade the pick.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, the old GMs have screwed over this franchise, so they need as many picks and down the road.
Yeah, and then Phil Jackson, he's not one to a trade. Like it would make sense to like trade back a little to get Cauley Stein and then add more picks. But at that, I don't think he'll do that. I think he'll just trade it for a player.
Yeah,
or trade it for multiple players. I mean, I don't know actually who we could trade it for. But he'll find a deal somewhere, I'm sure.
right, he'll find.
Yeah, someone's looking to make a deal. So, and then because if they reach, it's just I was never a big fan of reaching. I was always a big fan of best player available, and at 4 it'd be Moody or Moutier, how you pronounce it, or probably Winslow.
Yeah, I've heard that Phil's high on him.
Yeah.
So
I mean, but if you take Winslow and you start him right away, you got to put Carmelo at power forward, and he's almost as big as a baby on the boards as Dwight. So, I mean, he can shoot. He wants to play, but he can't. He's not a big rebounder. He's not all about that.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah. At 5 with Orlando, I think. It's going to be interesting if you take Winslow. The Knicks says in that.
Yeah.
They probably won't take Moody because they already have Peyton.
Yeah.
So then it gets interesting, and that's where you can either see Stanley Johnson or 2 foreigners, as in Porzingis from Latvia, the power forward, and these names are getting hard.
Yeah. Is it
Mario
Hezonja?
Yeah, Hezonja something from Croatia. Why can't they just get man, these names are difficult. But yeah, and then I can see them going. I can see Stanley Johnson at 5. Like it's really if the Knicks take Winslow, I can see a lot of movement.
Yeah, it gets interesting
But
if the Knicks.
yeah. But if they take Moody, I definitely think the pieces will fall. I think Winslow goes 5. The Kings, no matter who they draft, they're gonna need someone still because for some reason they can't keep anyone good.
Together.
Yeah, I mean Macklemore played pretty well this past year. DeMarco Cousins. Played really well. I mean, he's just a beast, but like no one can play with him. So, I mean, if I were them, I wouldn't take a small forward because you have Rudy Gay, maybe a point guard, but at that point you'd be reaching big time for a point guard. So I'd probably take a power forward, probably the.
Unless, of course, Moutier is still there.
If Moutier is still there, I mean, if Knicks don't take him, he can fall to 6, and I think they would have to take him at that point because
they might be a team that just tries to get ahead of Orlando. I mean, Orlando took Peyton in the middle of the first round, so they might not be completely sold on him. If Sacramento might get up to take Moutier, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I would be surprised if Orlando took Moody. I think Peyton came on at the end of the year really strong, started to adapt to the NBA, really grow as a player, started getting double-doubles. So I think they're sold on him. I mean, if the Knicks are trading the pick, I mean, they might go back to 6. Sacramento might call them. Maybe trade him a player. I mean, I don't know what player you want from Sacramento, but...
Yeah.
If Moody falls, if the Knicks don't take him and Sacramento can take him, I think that's a great pick, probably a great value because he's not much of a shooter. He's more of a ball handler and what's the word I'm looking for? Facilitator. And when you got Cousins and Gay, you're just looking for guys to get him the ball.
Yeah.
But right now, if Moody Eye does go for, I think Porzingis from Latvia. He's just a big power forward. I think that's your best bet at this point.
Yeah.
So you're not reaching for a point guard, and I think he'll fit nicely next to Cousins and Gay.
Yeah, and especially because they screwed up and they drafted Thomas Robinson and then traded him within a couple months.
Yeah. So, number 7, we got Denver. Denver is actually a very good team. They just didn't want to play for Brian Shaw this year, so they ended up at the 7th pick. I think they could have been almost a playoff team. I mean, looking at that, Ty Lawson is very good. Kenneth Reed is a beast. I mean, they need a big man. They needed a who else do they have?
They have Danilo Gallinari.
Gallinari. He's a beast, great shooter. He put up 40 multiple times towards the end of the year, and they would need they would need a shooting guard. So I mean, I saw a lot of mock drafts with Stanley Johnson or Hazonia, and I didn't really like that because they have Gallinari, and they would have to bring them on the bench or play with a small lineup because Gallinari is not a rebounder; he's a shooter.
Yeah.
So I think I could see Cauley Stein going at 7.
Yeah, I could see that.
You have Cauley Stein and you have Nursic, who was the rookie they traded JaVale McGee to give more time to. He played pretty well last year, but if you can have 2 big men, well, you have Freed, you have Nursic, and you have Cauley Stein. You can have a bigger lineup because Freed's not that tall, and you can have a quicker lineup if you put Cauley Stein in rather than Nursic. Nursic's pretty slow, so I think that's your best bet at this point because, I mean, the small forwards, yeah, they're good, but I just don't see them taking time away from Gallinari. There's no need to because, I mean, if you're going to draft a guy 7, you're most likely going to start him.
Oh, yeah, no. Not at all.
8 with Detroit, and that's another interesting pick because they were a team that after they fired what's his name? Or no, they didn't fire anyone. They got rid of Josh Smith. They went on a hot streak. It looked like they might make the playoffs, and then Jennings went down with that injury. I think they have a very good team. Right now their guards are Jennings and Reggie Jackson, and then they have Greg Monroe and Andre Drummond. So I think the piece missing there is probably Stanley Johnson, small forward.
Yeah. Yeah, the only other player I could really see there is maybe like if they lose Monroe to free agency, what a lot of people are saying about is either Miles Turner from Texas or Frank Kaminsky from Wisconsin and play them next to Drummond. But other than that, I think Stanley Johnson's a great pick for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to try their best to keep Monroe. I forgot he was actually a free agent, so I mean, yeah, you got to hope if Cauley Stein doesn't get picked by Denver like I think they will, I think you got to go with Cauley Stein there because the way Drummond was the defensive kind of guy and then Monroe scored the points for the big men, but now with Monroe, I think was hurt a little this year. Drummond was getting a lot of the workload. He really looked really good on offense, really was able to do a very good job. And then if Monroe leaves, then you can have Cauley Stein as your defensive kind of big man, and then you have Drummond just doing the offense for you. And then you got 2 very good guards who can shoot. So, I mean, if they can keep Monroe, I'd say Stanley Johnson. If they can't, and Cauley Stein's off the board already, I would say Stanley Johnson. Because I don't want to I'm not a big fan of reaching for a guy. I think Miles Turner, I think he's like top 15 talent, not much top 10 talent. So I'd probably say either Stanley Johnson or Cauley Stein I think one of them won't be there at that point. If they're both there, I'd probably take Stanley Johnson.
Yeah.
So, what were we going to say?
I agree with you, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think if you can get a score to go alongside that lineup, and you bring back Monroe, Stanley Johnson makes too much sense, especially at
8. Number 9, the Charlotte Hornets. I don't know how they got to 9 because it seems like they've been terrible for the past 10 years. My entire lifetime they haven't been good. But the name from the Charlotte Bobcats, they go back to the Hornets, and I think they got a little better as a team. They got Kemba. Jefferson is on their team, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're a young team, except for Jefferson. Jefferson's pretty old. So, at that pick, I would probably see Hazonia. I mean, they played good defense last year. They really just struggled to score. There were so many games where they were scoring 83 points, or I think one game they scored 66. So yeah, they need to score, and they're saying Hazonia is probably one of the best shooters in the draft, if not the best. Probably Hazonia or Decker. You got two great shooters around that point. You got to take one of them. It makes too much sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, you get one of them. I mean, Hazonia would have to come off the bench because they have Stevenson, but I mean, it makes too much sense to just get a guy that can score.
Yeah,
Which,
I mean,
like you said, that is something they really struggled with last year.
Yeah, and I don't think they would really have to worry about Stevenson because he really got soured towards the coaches last year and the ownership. So I'd actually see them maybe moving him in the draft. I mean,
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that.
I mean, hey, maybe they might take a second round pick for him at this point. Like, it really doesn't matter because they tried to trade him last year. So at number 10, you got the Miami Heat. They didn't fall out of the top 10, so the Sixers didn't get the pick. Very upsetting. But the Heat keep it, and they will be picking. And for me, I'd probably say, like before I said, Charlotte would be either Hazonia or Decker, and I think whatever one doesn't go to Charlotte goes to Miami.
Yeah, I could see that.
I just think you have Hassan Whiteside, your big man. You have Wade, you have Bosch. So you already have shooting guard, power forward, center. I assume Chalmers or Napier is your starting point guard next year. And then you get a small forward. Hazonia and Decker can play small forward. Good shooters. So, and Whiteside will get the board. He just loves rebounding. I think that's all he wants to do.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all he wants to do.
Yeah, he's just a beast. Number 11, Indiana. They're I don't understand that team. I mean, they got Hibbert, they got Paul George, George Hill, but they really struggle. I don't think Hibbert's a big time center. I think they paid too much for him. I think they're just waiting for his contract to end so they can just get rid of him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. At this pick, it'll be interesting at this pick if they take a big man and let him come off the bench a little and try and mold him into a starter, maybe all-star, or they take a shooter, like a shooting guard. So when you get you have George Hill, your draft pick, Paul George, Hibbert, and I can't think of their power forward. David West, that's right. So either you have that or you take a big man to mold him. So I think you either have Miles Turner going there or Booker. I can see Kaminsky as well. So you have Miles Turner, Kaminsky, or Booker.
Yeah. I can see those three.
Booker's a lights out shooter, or you have Turner or Kaminsky where you can mold into a big time big man. I think Kaminsky, if I were them, I might take Kaminsky. I think he has shown a better low post player. He's shown better low post moves. So I think if you can just work on his hook shot, I think that could be deadly. Just backing in, fake one way, hook shot. If you can work on that, that could be deadly and unstoppable because he's 7-footer, so you ain't blocking it.
Yeah. And And he's got Larry Bird as his boss, so I'm sure he'll learn it.
Oh yeah, no doubt. That's no better person to learn from than Larry Bird if you want to learn some deadly shots.
Unless maybe you played for Charlotte, then you got MJ.
Yeah, but I mean that really hasn't helped much. Number 12.
Yeah, he probably needs to come out of retirement to make that team good.
Yeah, I mean, if he came out of retirement, I'd probably say he's better than most of the team at this point.
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah. Number 12, you got the Utah Jazz, and I think they're going to be a surprise team next year. The way they played towards the end of the year. I mean, I watched some of their games because on my DraftKings team, I would always take Rudy Gobert, the Stifle Tower. So I watched them, and like they're an exciting team to watch, and I really enjoyed watching them. Exum started playing really well towards the end of the year. Hayward is, I think, one of the best young shooting guards in the game, behind probably only Bradley Beal, and maybe Klay Thompson. Behind Beal and Thompson, then you got probably Hayward, and then you have Gobert. You have Ingles, who comes off the bench for him. He has a lights-out shooter. The power forward and small forward position are a little weak. So, I mean, I could see them taking Turner or Kaminsky if one of them's still there. But they're more of centers and power forwards. I can see Kelly Oubre from Kansas, or Trey Lyles, who's more of a power forward. So it'll be interesting if they're looking for a shooter or a big man. If I was them, I'd take a big man, and I'd probably go Trey Lyles.
Yeah, I think this pick is interesting because they're at a spot where I think they're ready, like you said, they're ready to take the next step. And their team is pretty much set. I mean, they traded Cantor, but you're right, they put in Gobert. So, and he played ridiculously well. So I think this is just depth pick, and you look at some of the names that could be available. I mean, like you said, Kaminsky. You got Sam Decker, possibly Tyus Jones. So this is just a depth pick. Get the best guy and put him on the bench and hope for the best.
Yeah, you could pick basically like they have a very good starting core, they have 3 very good starters, and I think if you take a guy for depth reasons, you can have your 6th man. Like,
yeah,
I wouldn't try and put Kaminsky or Turner at power forward or Gobert at power forward. I don't think it would work.
Yeah,
I mean, they never really played it before, and then you have basically 2 centers, and you got 2 guys posting up. I mean, I just don't see it working. I mean, it worked in Detroit because Monroe played power forward and center in college. Worked. It's going to work in Philly, I hope, because Noel played power forward at Kentucky. So, I mean, he played a little center last year, but he played power forward as well, so I think that'll work. But having guys who have played center for their entire career, I don't see that working well, that transition. It's going to be a tough one at first, and then it's just if they have the skill to play the position.
Yeah.
13, you have the Phoenix Suns, who were a surprise team last year, and now are not so much. I think they gotta hope for Kaminsky or Turner to fall.
Yeah.
That's their best bet, because who they got rebounding for him? Plumlee, one of the Plumlees. Or no, they had Alex Len last year.
They dealt him to Milwaukee.
Yeah, they had Alex Len last year. Who played pretty well towards the end of the year and then got hurt. So I think you got to take a depth pick at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, Alex Len, he was getting like 8 and 8. I think he was averaging towards the end of the year. But like at that point, like in this NBA, 8 and 8's like, all right, like that's a bench player's like role. So like if you get you should get that in like 25 minutes, not starting 35 a game, and that's what they're looking. I mean, I would be okay with 8 and 8, but in today's NBA, it's different. So I think, you got to look big man at this point.
Yeah, just get some depth in there. Maybe if he, take like a Sam Decker, or like you said, if Turner or Kaminsky drop.
Mm-hmm.
Hope that they can beat out either Len or one of the Morrises. And
Yeah. I mean, if they got to hope Turner or Kaminsky falls. If they don't, I think you take Lyles.
Yeah, sure, Lyles too.
Their draft board should say Turner, Kaminsky, Lyles, Bobby Portis, and Montrezl Harrell. Just all centers and power forwards.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they have good shooters. In Brandon Knight, Eric Bledsoe, Marcus, I think, is a better shooter than Markieff. But they're all going to put up shots. So you got to have a guy there who's going to hit the boards and has the ability to get 15 rebounds for you a game.
Yeah.
Number 14, you have the Oklahoma City Thunder, who were better at getting hurt this year than winning games. Westbrook was hurt this year. Durant was hurt for most of the year. But they were able to pick up Dion Waiters, who played very well for them off the bench, and Cantor, who all of a sudden just was a double-double machine towards the end of the year. So I think at this point their lineup next year is going to be Westbrook, Waiters, Durant, Ibaka, Cantor. So at that point, I think you definitely want your probably weakest position right now is shooting guard, because Waiters is a shooter and that's all he does. He doesn't want to play defense or anything like that. So I think you would have to go with Booker or Oubre from Kansas. Both shooting guards, both very good shooters.
Yeah, I agree with you on those. I think if I'm the Thunder, I think I'm favoring Kelly Oubre or Oubre, however you pronounce it, only because he played both shooting guard and small forward in Kansas. So, and I mean, when you don't know what the future exactly holds after next year with Kevin Durant, I think you take the small forward who was a better scorer in college and hope that he could. I mean, no one's gonna replace KD, but hope that it eases the transition a little bit when you fall into deeper into the lottery if you were to lose him.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I didn't even think about that. I mean, Durant, he's talking about. Well, he's not talking about, but there's talk about him going back to his hometown Wizards. So that'd be interesting to see. Oubre, you said has experience at small forward, and I definitely think they could utilize him there. I think they might utilize him there this year because I don't know when Durant is expected to be back. So he might miss the first couple games of the season.
Yeah, and you think about it, and I mean, Oklahoma City's GM has been good about replacing the players he loses. He traded Harden, got Jeremy Lamb. Cut Perkins, but he had Cantor. He's been good at, if I'm getting rid of someone, there's someone else to replace them. So, I mean, I think the Oubre pick would make too much sense there for the reasons that we said.
Yeah.
You're not sure Kevin Durant is suiting up for you in 2 years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. At 15, you have the Atlanta Hawks from the Brooklyn Nets. So the Nets don't have a pick this year. Oh, no, they do have a pick, but in the later rounds. So that's...
Yeah, this is the start of them paying up for all the trades they made when they went to Brooklyn.
Yeah, that'll hurt them in the long run. It hurt them this year. So the Atlanta Hawks, who are an Eastern Conference Final team, is going to get the middle pick in the draft, and I think they'll be able to pick up a very nice player. I think at this point it's a depth pick because they have their starting rotation. But I mean, if Carroll leaves for the Knicks, I think you take Hollis Jefferson. I think he's better than taking either Lyles or Portis because right now you have Millsap and Horford locked up, so you got to take the small forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
have to.
If you can't have enough shooters in the NBA, so
yeah. Ask Charlotte.
Yeah, really. I mean, you just got to take Jefferson just in case Carroll leaves, and if you keep Carroll, I don't know how long you're going to be able to keep him for, because he might not want to sign a long-term deal, because he is actually in his 30s, I believe. Yeah, like he's older than most people think. He's been in the league for a while, and then just decided to break out. He was a late bloomer. So, number 16, the Boston Celtics, and that's a very interesting one because looking at the board of names we mentioned right now, around that pick, if the Hawks take Hollis Jefferson, you have Lyles and Portis and Harrell, and then Cliff Alexander, all power forwards. And I don't think, like, at this point, like, Celtics don't need big men. Like, they have Olynyk, they have Solinger, who played very well. Like, they've been stacking up big men for a while now. I think they need a shooter. They got Marcus Smart at point guard, so that kind of blocks them up from taking Cameron Payne or Jeremy Grant. Or Jeremy Grant, sorry. Jeremy Grant's his brother, plays for the Sixers. It blocks him time to taking a point guard, so I don't really see what Boston's going to do there. It's confusing. I think they may trade the pick instead of reaching for a guy.
Yeah.
I would probably say what they need now is a small forward. And the next best, if Jefferson isn't there, Hollis Jefferson, is Justin Anderson, who's a late round pick.
Yeah.
So maybe they trade the pick, maybe to like the Brooklyn Nets, so they can trade back up, and then you get like extra assets. But yeah, at this point, I don't think you reach. It's a very deep draft.
Yeah. It's from what I've been looking at, it seems like it's that top four, and then there's a drop off. But then after that drop off, it's all quality players.
Yeah.
Not like Andrew Wiggins and then Kwame Brown.
Yeah, exactly. At 17, the Milwaukee Bucks, who were able to eke into the playoffs this year with new additions of Jason Kidd, Michael Carter-Williams. There's probably another one there that I forgot. They got the Ennis and the Plumlee. They got them, but, I mean, they weren't really huge additions. And they were able to finish the season, make the playoffs after having the worst record last year. Oh, the Greek Freak. He was a beast. So at this point, I think the Bucks just need to get bigger on the boards. I've been saying that for the past, 5 years, because I don't think Ilyasova is a good big man. I think if coming off the bench, I think yes, because he can shoot all over the court. But if you need rebounds for your big man. You just need guys to get in there, get dirty, and get some boards. And Ilyasova can't do that. So I think. What were you gonna say?
I think the best person there for Milwaukee is Montrezl Harrell, because he's literally just a rebounder.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you have the Greek Freak, and when Jabari Parker gets back off the ACL, and Carter Williams, you have guys that are looking to score. You just need, okay, we missed. Who's gonna get it? And Montrezl Harrell is that guy.
Yeah, I would say either Harrell or Lyles. I think Bobby Portis, is more of a scorer, and I think he was made into that because Arkansas didn't really have anyone else to score, so they just kept giving him the ball. I think you have to go Lyles or Harrell, because they were Lyles came off the bench and was like, all right, do everything and anything to get more playing time. So he was always fighting for every rebound on every play. So I think those are the best bets at that point. I mean, I may say Lyles because he has bigger upside if he's still there. But I think Harrell would be a good pick for them. At 18, the Houston Rockets have the pick from the Pelicans. And there, it's very confusing because they're a finals, Western Conference Finals team. So at that point, it's a depth pick.
Yeah, and unlike the Hawks, they're not really losing anyone.
Exactly. I think the only people they might be losing is Josh Smith, because they had him on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, they had him on a 1-year deal. The only guy I could think of that makes perfect sense here for Houston, and I think we've only talked about him once over going through these picks, is Tyus Jones out of Duke, the point guard.
Yeah.
You have Beverly, who was banged up all year this year. The Jeremy Lin experiment failed. Patrick Beverly's been banged up. I think right now they're starting Pablo Prigioni, who's 39. So, I think Tyus Jones there would make too much sense. Get a point guard to just run the offense, and another guy, just a distributor. I mean, he'll put in his 10 or 15 a game, but he'll get the ball to Harden and Dwight and Ariza. And, I mean, I think that's what they need, is just some guy, some guy to either be starting or just as a backup plan in case this happens yet again, Beverly, where he goes down.
Yeah, at that point, I mean, I'm not as high on Tyus Jones as some people are, like yourself. But at this point, if I was the Rockets, I would take Cameron Payne out of Murray State. He's a very,
Yeah,
very underrated point guard from a very small school, but it seems like point guards from small schools really work. I mean, Lillard from Weber State, like, I can't even tell you where Weber State is, let alone it existed before.
I have no clue.
Yeah, before Lillard was drafted, I had no idea it existed. So I think out of Murray State, I mean, he played well, but the only thing against him is who do you play against? Like,
Yeah.
like he's playing against bad talent, but like he still put up, I think, like 20 points a game. He's a very good passer. I think that's their best bet because Beverly is more of a defender. So if you can get like a scoring point guard off the bench, I think that would be your best bet.
Yeah.
19, you have the Washington Wizards, who had a very good year this year. I think they are going to just add depth at this point. I mean, when you got your guards are set, so I don't think you're not going to go with anything there. You got Wall, Beal, small forward. It gets a little iffy because you're losing Paul Pierce, maybe. And then you got Otto Porter backing him up, and then you have Nene and Gortat. So I think you'd probably have to go a power forward at this point. I think you either have Portis if he falls, or Harrell or Alexander. I think your best bet would probably be Portis if he falls.
Yeah, or Kevin Looney. I mean, we haven't talked about him a lot, but he had a good yell at.
Yeah, I would definitely say it'd be interesting to see because there could be, like, at this pick, we could be looking at it and be like, wow, there's no power forwards left, or there could be a lot. It really is a toss-up, but I think Portis may be there, and I think he'd be the best player available at the position they're looking for, so I think that would be good for them. Number 20, the Toronto Raptors. Like the Wizards, their guards are pretty set with Lowry and DeRozan. I think they'd have to go big man as well. I mean, you got Valanciunas, and then you got Amir Johnson. So I think you would like to add another big man. I think that's where you see probably Alexander, Kevon Looney, or Harrell if he's still on the board.
Yeah.
You got to go. I think you go best big man available, and I think it's going to be one of those three at that point. I think that just makes too much sense for him. 21, Dallas. I mean, they were a playoff team, but it seems like we all know what they're taking after the whole Rondo thing. So like we know it makes sense they're probably going to take a point guard because Rondo's out of there because he's soured towards the coaches. And then you have Ellis, you have Parsons, Nowitzki, and Chandler. So you have 4 or your 5. I think you just have to add a point guard there. I think you don't start him right away because of Barea. Like you let Barea play so he can get just acclimated to the NBA. And I would have to say either Grant or Wright at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the other one that you might look at is if Payne, who you mentioned, or Tyus Jones are still available. They're another one that you can look at 21 for the Mavericks.
Yeah.
Just like you said, it's a glaring hole. I mean, there's every other position set on their starting rotation.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you can, like, point guards, like, there's 2 in the top 5, and then, like, in, like, 15 to 30, you have just a bunch of them. I think at least, like, 10, or, like, it's nuts, and so they can just, at that point, have their pick. I mean, I think one will be off the board with the Rockets. I think that makes too much sense for the Rockets to not take a point guard. So, but you still have you can still pick Grant, Wright, Jones. I mean, RJ Hunter played a little point guard, so like you actually have your pick there. I think that for the Mavericks, if I were them, I'd take DeLon Wright out of Utah. I think Grant was relied on too much to be a scorer at Notre Dame, so he's got that scorer mentality. He's not a pass-first kind of guy. And in the Mavericks offense, you need a guy who's going to be distributing the ball because Ellis, Nowitzki, Chandler, they need their shots, and I think that's what Rondo couldn't get acclimated to. Rondo wasn't all big about getting 15 assists a game. He wanted 15 points.
Yeah. I think the other thing, the thing I like about the NBA draft is there's always movement. If Orlando, let's just say, if the Knicks don't take Moody and Orlando's like he's supposed to be the best point guard available, and he's there at 5. A lot of the times they take him, and then similar to the Sixers this year, a year after you draft a guy, he's on another team. So, here's a spot where I can see a possible, if Orlando is in a position to take Moody them taking him, and then a guy like Elfrid Payton ending up a Maverick. That kind of stuff happens in the NBA draft that we don't see in the NFL draft or anything else.
Yeah, that's a good point. That would be something. That would definitely be a surprise. I think at that point you'd have to have Dallas giving up a lot of picks because they don't have many players. Yeah. They gave up most of their good bench players in the Rondo deal. So, but hey, Cuban's not afraid to make a deal, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
22, the Bulls. That's going to be interesting. I think as we're starting to get in the 20s, you see more depth picks. So I think they're probably going to go point guard / shooting guard as well because we all know Derrick Rose and his knees they're just not that great. So you're probably going to have to get something like that. I think you'd probably go Jerry Grant at that point because I think he will be there. He can play he can play point guard or shooting guard.
Yeah, I like Jerry Grant there because, you look, Jimmy Butler's a restricted free agent. They can match it, but a team could overpay for him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But so the Mavericks doing it for Parsons. If you lose Jimmy Butler, Jerry Grant is probably the best scorer available at 22. And the Bulls have been so much better the last couple of years because of Rose going down, and they had to find other scorers.
Mm-hmm. That's when Jimmy Butler emerged, when Rose went down.
Yeah, so, it makes too much sense if they lose Butler to get Grant and say, okay, you're the scorer now, go do it.
Yeah. And you can keep Butler. I think you keep Dunleavy at the starting small forward, but then if you grab Grant, you can go Rose, Grant, and Butler at small forward, which will give you a smaller lineup, much quicker lineup, and I think you get a little more scoring punch, more quickness. Dunleavy's a very good shooter, but he's a liability on defense. He's not very quick with his feet, so I think.
And you still have McDermott too, who he didn't play well at all for all the hype coming in.
No, I think the injury hurt him. Because, you see most young guys when they're picked in, the middle of the draft, you have them struggle in the beginning of the year, not get a lot of minutes, and then they start to get acclimated, and then the minutes go up, the points go up, but then McDermott got hurt, and then he couldn't get many minutes because Chicago was doing very well, so they were just all right, 3 minutes here, 3 minutes there, and then didn't give him enough time to get acclimated. So I think...
And Mirotic played ridiculously
Mirotic will be a big key for them next year. So I think if you take Grant and you got a bench of Grant, Mirotic, McDermott, and Taj Gibson, I think that's a pretty solid bench. You guys
that's pretty solid.
Yeah, better than most. Just ask the Clippers.
Oh, yeah.
23, you got the Portland Trailblazers. And this one's going to be interesting because Portland's prized possession, LaMarcus Aldridge, may be leaving. It was expected to be a max contract. There's talk of him going every place except Portland. So I think
fingers crossed that's New York.
Yeah, I've heard New York. I heard the Spurs. I was surprised about that one. So, but Portland's probably gonna go power forward there because it just makes too much sense. I think you got Kevon Looney. I think he'll be there.
Christian Wood out of UNLV too is another one.
Yeah.
Not that UNLV is a small school, but this the Trailblazers GM has a history of taking, smaller school guys. Obviously Weber State with Lillard.
Mm-hmm.
down the road from us back at the Sales with C.J. McCollum.
Yeah, Lehigh. Yeah.
So I could see here, I mean, Christian Wood is a good player, and he's falling because, who does... Again, it's not as bad as Weber State, but who does UNLV play?
Yeah, true. Very true. It's not like UCLA where they're playing Pac-12 all time, playing in the tournament. So
yeah.
At 24, you have the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I mean, really, they're just gonna build up their bench at this point. I mean, I think Dellavedova really has turned into a big-time bench player this postseason. He's played very well. So I think you probably go either a shooting guard or a small forward, and I think your best bet's either Justin Anderson or R.J. Hunter. I think those are your two best picks at that point. Shumpert can play both shooting guard and small forward, and Justin Anderson can play small forward. R.J. Hunter really could play point guard, shooting guard, and small forward. He did at Georgia State. I know he wasn't playing much competition, so it doesn't really make it like they really didn't care where they played him, but just to have that versatility, it's just good to have it.
Yeah, I think the other thing with this pick is that it obviously hinges on Kevin Love. If he doesn't come back, then I think you have to take a power forward for a depth pick because you're playing Tristan Thompson at that point.
Yeah, so you'd probably have to reach for either Chris McCullough from Syracuse or Christian Wood, like you said, from UNLV.
Yeah, or even a reach of Raheem Christmas at a Cuse too.
Yeah.
I mean, this draft's loaded with power forwards.
Oh, yeah. Power forwards and point guards.
Yeah.
At 5, you have Memphis. They really struggled scoring against the Warriors. They just kept pushing into Gasol, and he was getting like 35 shots a game, and he was making like 52% of them, which is good, but it wasn't good enough because they didn't really have anyone else. Conley was injured, so I think they should look for a scorer off the bench. And then I think if whoever the Cavs don't take, in Justin Anderson or R.J. Hunter, I think they should take the other one.
Yeah.
Because I think those are two good scorers at that point. So, number 26, you have the San Antonio Spurs. And if you look at the Spurs' previous drafts, whoever they pick at this point will be an all-star. That's just how it works. And I think I really like Tyus Jones at this pick.
Yeah. Him or I'm looking at a mock draft now, and it says Jarrell Martin out of LSU, who I've never heard of, but he'll be the next big power forward in the league.
Yeah, I think they have Kyle Anderson. They picked him last year. I think they were looking at probably Parker might be done soon, maybe not done like basketball, but done in San Antonio. I think they're going to have to break that up eventually. Tyus Jones, very immature. I think he came out too early, so he's just, 19? He played on the bench for 3 years. I mean, they got 4 years of team control, so I think they got to develop him on the bench, and I think he'll be a good player. Because, I mean, they're probably going to be losing Patty Mills soon, because he's just probably the best backup point guard in the league, and it might be too much money for them. So I think Tyus Jones might be a good pick there.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's it's a theme of every year. Somebody drops and Popovich grabs them.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
And he puts them alongside all those players, and they end up winning championships. So
yeah, people have been trying to duplicate it, but they haven't been able to. So At number 27, the Lakers have another pick. They got it from the Houston Rockets. And the Lakers will be hoping that I'm wrong so that Tyus Jones falls to them. They would love that because most likely they're taking a big man. So, but if not, I'd probably see them taking Rashad Vaughn or Norman Powell, both shooting guards from one from UNLV, one from UCLA.
Yeah, I think again, depth, especially the Lakers are looking to spend money this offseason, so. I mean, we're looking at it right now like, they have Kobe, Randall, and then whoever they take 2, But, I mean, they're going to probably have Rajon Rondo on their roster by the time the draft comes around.
Yeah.
Or is I'm not sure if the draft is before free agency.
Draft's before free agency.
It's before free agency. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
they'll have an idea.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
okay, well,
yeah, they're going to be able to talk to the players, so they'll be able to know, like, hey, we're going to get Rondo most likely. But I think their
yeah.
best,
So, I mean,
yeah,
this is the depth pick.
yeah, their best bet is that they can take Okafor Towns, and then hopefully they were able to snag Tyus Jones. And I think that would be a great draft for them if they were able to do that, because originally they're sitting at 4, they were thinking, all right, we got Moody, and then if at 27 we'll probably take Wood or McCullough, power forwards. So, and then you can put them next to Randall. But at this point, they're going to be able to get Okafor Towns, so they're just hoping Tyus Jones falls, I'm assuming. 28, you have the Boston Celtics from the LA Clippers. So, I mean, the Clippers needed this pick.
Yeah.
It's because they needed to build up their bench. But they traded it to Boston because why not? I think who were able to. Was this the Austin Rivers trade? Or.
Yeah, I think, this is the Rivers trade.
So they gave up a first round
pick.
pick.
I remember saying that. Like, wow, I got a first for Rivers.
Yeah.
Doc must really like his son.
Yeah. So the Celtics in the earlier pick, I said probably stay away from big men because I have so many. I would do the same here. I would take Norman Powell or Rashad Vaughn, both shooting guards.
Yeah.
I mean, coming off the bench, they would add some scoring, and I think their big men are stacked. You have Brandon Bass, you have Olynyk, you have Sullinger. It seems like they always having big men available. So I think you just need some more shooters. What'd you say?
I think that makes perfect sense to go get yourself another scorer off the bench or a guy that can play good defense even.
Yeah.
I mean, they're another team. I mean, they've done a little bit better with developing their talent over the course of, blowing up their big three and whatever than the Lakers have.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, they're still a team that, has a lot of cap room, and there's a reason they have, 17 championships? It's because they spend that cap room eventually.
Yeah, I think they might. They'll get someone this offseason. I think they did a very good job just sitting back waiting, and they were able to snatch Isaiah Thomas for very cheap.
Well, that was huge.
Yeah, I think that was a great deal by Danny Ainge, and I think they may sign a guy in the offseason. I don't see a max contract guy.
No.
But
unless they overpay for a restricted free agent, which I don't see Ainge doing at all.
No, Ainge may spend like $10 million a year on a guy for like 3 years, and I think that would be a good deal. Probably at small forward, because I don't see anyone right there on the roster that could really make a big impact. 29, you have the Brooklyn Nets from the Atlanta Hawks, and they have to. I think they take a big man. You got to go Christian Wood or McCullough at that point.
Yeah.
Two big power forwards. I mean, they're not going to come in and be all-stars right away. You're going to have to develop them, but at that point, those are the best players available. So.
Yeah, and Brooklyn also has gotten lucky with. They took Plumlee in the middle of the first round. The year that you guys took Carter Williams and Noel.
Mm-hmm.
He's grown into a nice player for Brooklyn. So, I mean, if you can get a power forward and hope that he develops the same way Plumlee did, I mean, they were looking to move Brook Lopez last year, so what's to say they won't do it again?
Yeah, especially when it seems like the team's not really going anywhere.
Yeah, I think they have less picks than the Knicks the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So, if you could go out, trade Brook Lopez, get some picks back, that'd be huge for them.
Mm-hmm. And number 30, you have the Golden State Warriors, who finished with the best record in the league. And at that point, I think they would take either Wood or McCullough, whoever is not taken by the Nets, because that would be the best player available. And at 30, that's all you're looking for. You're not really looking for anyone. I mean, I think David Lee's most likely going to be out of there. I don't think his contract's up, but I think his they're going to get rid of him anyway, probably trade him or whatever. I think they should have a power forward to back up Draymond Green, just like a bigger guy they could put in, because Draymond Green's pretty small for the power forward position.
Yeah, and you were able to see that in a lot of the games with New Orleans early on, where he was just getting bullied by Anthony Davis.
Yeah, no doubt. So, I mean, a bigger guy there would be a big help. All right, we just ran through it was kind of our mock drafts, but we were just kind of given every option for the team. So, and obviously there is a second round. So, give me your surprise guy in the draft. Who do you think might go second round, but will be a big time player, or at least a starter?
The more I think about it, the one player that I'm looking at, and I mean, he might go as high as, possibly 30 if he has a good, draft process, is Andrew Harrison out of Kentucky.
Yeah.
I think he fits what Golden State does with the three ball, which has proved me wrong because I said when we were back at school that, no team that lives and dies by the three makes it far. But I mean, if you can have Andrew Harrison come off the bench and knock down shots, not the same way that Steph Curry does because he's on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you can come in and knock down some three balls off the bench and, kind of provide a pseudo Curry just for the backup players, so it's the same system. And it's not, okay, Curry's in now, we got to play this way. Okay, whoever I'm not even sure who their backup point guard is because Curry plays so many minutes.
I think it's they have like many shooting guards. I think Barbosa and Livingston take reps at point guard.
Yeah, that way it's not okay, Livingston's in, let's play this way. It's Andrew Harrison. It's it's a similar style.
Mm-hmm.
So he's one guy that he's shooting tends to translate. I mean, if you're a shooter in college, you're a pretty good shooter in the NBA. It might take a couple years to get, to know what's a good look and what's not. But, he grew up a lot, you can tell. If you look at his film from his freshman year last year to this year, he's grown up a lot. And like I said, he can knock down shots.
Oh, yeah. If he's able to come off the bench, shoot 40% from three, that's all Golden State needs, and that would be awesome. Because their offense is set up to give their guards open shots. So,
and you look at the top of the second too. I mean, you have Minnesota, who again just needs offense off the bench after they take whoever goes one, and then the Rockets, who like to shoot the three. I mean, Boston has a knack for taking athletic guys that are good in college and hoping that it works out. And then the Lakers, the Sixers. You have the Sixers twice in there. The Timberwolves. I mean, there's plenty of teams that can use Andrew Harrison. Before where this mock draft that I'm looking at has him going at 40 to Miami. So I think there's plenty of could grab him and he could be a good player.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I have two surprise guys. I think Pat Connaughton from Notre Dame. He's fallen a lot because they don't know if he wants to play baseball or basketball. I think he's going to try to do both. His combine numbers were off the charts. He was like second all time in the vertical, and his numbers were great. He was able to, in the scrimmages, he was played very well. So I think, a second round guy, like, you might as well take a chance. I think he's a good shooter. I think he's an all around good player, and like he'll do everything for you. He's just out there. He's a hustle guy, and that's what some teams need. So I think he would fit very well on some team and be a good surprise. And I think Rakeem Christmas. I think he's a undersized center. Needs some work at power forward, where I think his best fit would be. But if you can keep working with him, he'll get rebounds and he can make some shots. So I think if you work with him, I think in maybe give him 3 years, he can be a 10-10 guy. Starting at 10-10. I think he could surprise some people. And I think there's going to be a lot of surprises in this draft because of how deep it is. This is probably the deepest draft I can even remember.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like we said, like I said, I mean, it's there was a clear upper level with the top four of Towns, Okafor, Moutier, and Russell. But after that, I mean, it's not like you're losing a lot from 5 to 15. Normally, there's a drop off in there, and there's not this year.
Yeah, at least not as big as other years. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a little of a drop off, but I mean, it's not as drastic as other years. All right, right now we're going to shift to the NHL. That lottery has not happened yet, so you don't have to sit through us going through every pick. I mean, we're not going to know as much. We're not going to know much NHL prospects. I can name like 2, but we're going to talk about the playoffs and a little Flyers. The playoffs, the Hawks and the Ducks are tied at 2 apiece, and the Tampa Bay Lightning are over Lewis's New York Rangers 3-2 after a 2-0 win last night.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, luckily I've seen the Flyers in the playoffs a lot over my fandom, so it is tough to watch your team kind of make it this far and then they just look just stifled by another team and you're just like, how is this possible? Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
But I mean, they still have a chance. I mean, you saw in the Washington series, they got their backs against the wall and they were just like, all right, you know what? I guess we'll start playing. So
yeah, we'll start playing now.
Yeah, they played well, and I think they have a shot to come back. I think they got to just Lundqvist has got to show like he can play. He's really just struggled. I don't know if the Lightning are in his head.
They've played better on the road all year, though.
So. Yeah, that's true. If they were able to, they had Game 6 is in New York, right?
Game 6 is in Tampa.
Oh, Game 6 is in Tampa. Okay, that's right. That's what I meant. So if they were able to get this game on the road, it's Game 7. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
So. But the Hawks and Ducks series, that's been a very good one. Tied up at 2. I feel like they've been to overtime every game. They've probably played a combined, 20 overtime periods.
Yeah, just about.
It's been a crazy series and a great one to watch. And
yeah,
I do think the Ducks will pull it out. I think they will end up winning the series. Just because, I mean, the games that the Ducks won, they just looked overpowering. Like the Hawks, I think Hawks have 2 overtime wins, and I think that's how they tied the series. So, I mean, the Ducks are just a little deeper, a little faster. I think the only thing that can stop the Ducks from winning is experience by the Blackhawks.
Yeah, I think, like you said, the Blackhawks have more experience, but it's a matter of if the Ducks can just outspeed them, which is what the Rangers are going to have to do too with, Kreider, Hagel, and their guys. It's a matter of if speed can win.
Yeah, I agree. In non-related playoff news, the Flyers signed a new coach, and it is not Todd McClellan. It is not Mike Babcock. It is Dave Haskell from the University of North Dakota, the NCAA hockey team. He was there for 11 years, made the tournament 11 times, been to 7 Frozen Fours, never won a championship, which I wasn't a big fan of seeing that, but I kind of like the hire.
Yeah, I think I like it. I mean, you guys needed to grab someone after you missed out on Babcock.
Yeah. So. I mean, I don't even know if Babcock was on the list. Looking at Hextall, he said Haskell was his number 1 guy, and they offered him the contract 3 times, and the 3rd time he finally accepted it. So, I mean, he seems like a good guy. He's very good in player development. He's coached, I believe, was it like Parise and I think it was a bunch of, they had like a list of NHL players that he coached. So, like Matt Green from the Kings. So I think he's very good at player development. And at this point in this, in the Flyers franchise, they have very young kids and they just need them to develop and get better. So I think for the time being, it's a good pick for player development. But I mean, when the players do develop, is he going to be able to finally just buckle down and win games? That's going to be the interesting thing. Or is he just a stopgap for when we're ready to compete and then we need a new guy? So it'll be interesting to see there. The Toronto Maple Leafs were able to pick up Mike Babcock on a ridiculous deal. I think it was 8 years, $50 million.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
He got paid like a player. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was nuts. And they're hoping that can turn around that franchise. They've struggled. The goaltending has been bad. The offense has been equally as bad, and the defense has been worse than both. So, and I think Tom McClellan going to the Orioles or the Oilers, I think that's going to be very interesting. I mean, the Oilers, they should be good. They have had, I don't know how many first or number one picks overall, and they just struggled big time. So I mean, maybe maybe McClellan can turn them around, but that's a tough task. So if I was going to go to the Oilers, I might as well just ask for Mike Babcock money.
Yeah,
because that's a tough task. He might be out of there in 2 years because Oilers are just bad. It seems like they're cursed anymore. MLB now. We're going to go over the power rankings. Number 1, the Cardinals at 25-12. Number 2, the Dodgers at 24-13. Number 3, the Royals at 24-14. Number 4, the Tigers at 23-15. 5 is the Astros at 25-13. And then number 9, the Mets are at 22-16. And number 29, not 30, the Phillies are at 16-23.
The real question is who's 30?
I think it was the Brewers.
The Brewers? Okay.
Yeah. So it makes sense. The Phillies been playing good this past week or two.
Yeah, you guys have been hot. I'm worried about this series.
Yeah, I mean, Howard's hitting 268 now. Franco's really come along. Revere's really starting to hit like he did last year. So, I mean, I don't.
They just sent Ashy down to learn left field.
Yeah, so that's going to be exciting, which means either going to move Revere to right or they're going to move Revere. And I think they're probably going to move Revere, even though I want him to go to right field. And then I think that would be a very good outfield. Because I think Ashy, I don't want to compare him to Alex Gordon, but I think he's an Alex Gordon type of guy where he's just a gamer, and he'll be able to field left field because he just knows where the ball's going to be. He can read the ball very well. Like watching third, he was like line drives. He was very quick to react and read it. So I think that will help him in left field. But yeah, the Mets Phillies start tomorrow, right?
Tonight.
No, tonight. All right. So that'll be a good series. I mean, Phillies are probably going to sweep, because that's just
probably we can't score a run to save our lives.
Yeah, the Phillies have really struggled scoring runs. They were able to put up 8 against Strasburg, but Strasburg has really been struggling big time. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. So I have on our website, which I will mention in a bit, we have I have the next game stuff for the Phillies versus the Mets, and well, maybe I'll keep track of the head-to-head record of both New York and Philly teams for the when we have the website up. Why not? I got nothing else better to do.
Yeah. I'm looking now. We got. You got a good pick. You get some good pitchers. It's Cologne tonight, DeGrom tomorrow, and Syndergaard Wednesday.
And then who do we have? We have Gonzalez and Harang just pitched last night.
Williams. No, it's not.
Yeah, Harang pitched last night. Did you get Hamels?
No, we missed him and Harang.
Yeah, so it will be Gonzalez, Williams, and some other dude. Sullivan. Right?
Yeah. Let me see if we got... Alright, tonight's Gonzalez against Cologne. And then Williams versus DeGrom. And O'Sullivan versus Syndergaard.
So, we obviously have the better 3 pitchers there. and we're
yeah.
we're probably gonna have 3 perfect games, because Sean O'Sullivan is a beast.
Yeah, I mean, the Mets, it's sad. I mean, I know Pittsburgh's good, but when the Mets are playing the infield in the 4th inning with the pitcher at bat because they can't afford a run is a little sad.
Yeah. I want to talk about the website right now because I don't know who's going to listen to this, but whoever does, we have a website now. It's mondaynightlights.wix.com. I tweeted it and I put it on the Facebook page. I'll do that again. And it's just nothing special. It's just we'll have our podcast on there. We have an About Us section about me and Lewis. We'll have news and updates. There's a little thing where you can send in things to Monday Night Lights to us. We'll have a picture and a video of the week, and we'll try and tweet questions and put questions on the website where you can respond to them, send in your answers, send in your questions, where we can read them on the air or on the podcast.
On the podcast.
Yeah. I'm used to saying on the air because we're on the radio, but we can read on the podcast, answer them. We'll maybe do some trivia questions. You can send in your answers. No cheating because I don't like cheating. But we'll know the answers, but you can't cheat. I'm very excited about this. We're going to keep the podcast going up until school, and then we'll have the radio show. But I'm going to try and get the radio show onto a podcast, so if you can't catch it during the time, we can just put the podcast of the show on the website.
Yeah.
And
then we will also have a YouTube channel. This will be the first one on our YouTube channel. And we'll just, again, it'll be the same audio as the podcast, and we'll have a video on YouTube of the entire show as well for the podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna take the podcast, put it on YouTube, and then I'm gonna have the YouTube link. I'm gonna put it on the website. I'm gonna tweet it. I'm gonna put it on the Facebook page. So wherever you want to find it, it's totally up to you. And
completely on demand.
Yeah, we're putting it on every single site. Maybe I'll Instagram it. I don't know.
Monday Night Lights has gone to the new millennium.
Yeah, we're taking over. So yeah, I would like this. I would like the website to really take off. I would be a big fan of that because hopefully we might be able to write, maybe make it like a blog kind of thing. Be able to write for it as well on stories. That'd be good. I would really enjoy that. So, but right now it's just starting off, just run-of-the-mill website with some podcasts on it. So take a look. Let us know what you think. And I'm excited about this.
Yeah, it is exciting.
Yeah, so we're gonna wrap up the show for tonight or today, but we're gonna release it tonight. We're gonna wrap up the show for today, and we'll be back here next Monday. And thanks for listening. Thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah. Loyal listeners.
Yeah. So you're listening to Monday Night Lights, not on 101.7 WDSR like you used to hearing, but on either Facebook, Twitter, or the website, our podcast.
Or YouTube.
Yeah, or YouTube, that's right. A Monday Night Light podcast. Thanks for coming, or thanks for listening, and see you back next week. Lewis, good show.
Good show.
I had to say it this week because I'm used to saying it all every other week. All right, I'll see you later, Lewis.
All right, see you, Tim.